Scaling a service business to 7 figures without having to hire more receptionists to book people's appointments over the phone and over text was impossible 4 years ago. But in 2026, you can do exactly that with an AI chatbot, even if you don't know how to code or you've never even vibe coded before. You just need to follow the exact steps in this tutorial to building an AI chatbot that can book appointments directly to your business's calendar and support customers and answer their questions along the way. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to build a WordPress AI chatbot and connect it to Google Calendar so that it can book appointments, cancel appointments, and reschedule appointments. And I'll show you how to test it and make sure that it actually works before you deploy it to whatever platform. It's never been easier to scale a service business with AI. Now, the first thing that you want to do is head over to WordPress.com. This is the platform where we shall actually build the AI chatbot from. And you just want to select login, create an account if you don't have one already, and sign up and head over into the dashboard. Your dashboard should look something like this. By the way, make sure you skip that entire process where it tries to help you set up an AI agent. Essentially, it can help you speed run that process, but that's not what we're building today. We're building something a little different from that. Now you can see that I already have quite a few projects in here, but you probably have only one, and you just want to click on it and then select edit in studio. So you can jump into the studio and it should send you to a page that looks like this. So the first thing I'll start with is uploading knowledge to the AI chatbot. You want to head over to this book icon on the left bar here in the studio, click that and then select create a knowledge base, give it a new name. So I'll just say main knowledge base. It should send you to a page like this where you can upload your chatbot's knowledge, and you can go ahead and basically link your website here just by pasting in its link, or you can upload documents about your business. I'd recommend actually that you put as much information as possible about your niche, your industry, and your business in .txt files, and then upload those to here because your AI chatbot reads .txt files easiest and fastest, so it can respond to users' questions as quickly as possible. So I've gone ahead and uploaded a .txt file of a knowledge base about my business. I will be building this AI chatbot essentially for my business, and it will be able to book appointments for people who are looking for AI chatbot builds or AI chatbots for their businesses, and will essentially allow them to book an appointment with me directly to my Google Calendar. Now, the next thing that we shall actually do is setting up the Google Calendar integration from WordPress to Google Calendar to allow people to book appointments directly from the chat. So what you'll need for this is to just have a Google account. This can be a Google Workspace account, so with like a business domain, or it can just be like a personal Gmail account that you have that has access to Google Calendar. So to configure the Google Calendar integration, you want to start by heading over into the integration hub in the top right of your studio. And then you essentially just want to search for calendar, and you should see it pop up, Google Calendar over here. And then you can just install that to your AI chatbots studio. Once you've done that, integrating it to your Google Calendar is extremely easy. Just make sure that you're signed into your Google account in the current browser that you're in, and it should be the same account that you want to use for the Google Calendar integration. So the same account that has access to Google Calendar and where you would like to see your appointment bookings reflected into. And then once that's done, essentially all you have to do is select connect with auth, and you should see a tab pop up on the left telling you that is basically allowing you to choose an account to select to connect to Google Calendar. I'll choose this one over here. This is my main one. And then I'll go ahead and select continue. And then you should essentially see authentication successful, but that's because I've done it before. But if you're doing it for the first time, you should see a few tick boxes asking you to allow access for it to create events in your calendar, edit events, manage events essentially. And you just want to go ahead and give it access to all of those, and then select continue. And once that's done, it should say that it has authorized it and connected to Google Calendar here. Now, the last thing that you have to do before you enable the integration is put in your calendar ID. And if you want to find it, just head over to Google Calendar, head over to settings, scroll down and select the calendar you're looking for, essentially. So Inokomunu. And then if you go to integrate calendar, you should see your calendar ID somewhere on this page. The screen will be blacked out essentially over here because there's a bunch of other sensitive data. But if you struggle to find it, just search up on Google, how do I find my calendar ID for Google Calendar? And usually for most people, it will just be the email of their calendar. The email of the Google account that is connected to that Google Calendar. And then essentially what you want to do is just head back into the studio, paste that over here as your calendar ID, and then you can save configuration and it should automatically enable it from up here. So you can see this button has changed to disable, meaning it has been enabled. Now, if you want to actually test this out, you can come in here and start by essentially adding a tool. And the tool that you want to add is the list events calendar tool. And then in here in the instructions, just say you are a helpful assistant and use the, and then click this over here. So use the list events tool to tell me the events in my calendar. So just that you get that right, you just type use the, put a space there, and then select the list events tool, which should be over here because you added it. And then use a list events tool to tell me events in my calendar. And then if you come into the emulator and you just ask, what are the events in my calendar? It should take a short while because it's listing all the events in your calendar. But if you see it as output events that are actually in your calendar, that's how you know that it actually works. So our next step is literally just setting up this autonomous node the right way so that it's able to do more than just list events, but it can actually book events, it can edit events, and it can delete events in your Google Calendar, as well as answer questions from the user. This is actually extremely easy, and I've already built a prompt for you to just copy paste in so that you can do it. But before I give you the prompt, I just want to explain to you quickly why we're using an autonomous node to do this and what it actually means inside your AI chatbot. You see, on WordPress, there's two types of nodes. You can have an autonomous node with a pop or autonomous tag on top, or if I right click and select standard, I can have a standard node which looks a little more flat and basic. And that's exactly what it is actually, because in an autonomous node, the AI has control of the conversation. The conversation is autonomous while the user is here, and you essentially can give it tools and it functions as a sort of AI agent and just uses the tools that you've given to it, such as searching your knowledge base, listing events in your calendar, to interact with the user using natural language, which is what we've been able to do over here, and understand what the user wants, the questions they're asking, and then essentially use the tools that it has access to help the user and fulfill tasks such as listing events in the calendar. But with a standard node, essentially what it does, you can think of standard nodes as like a packet of code. And what that means essentially is that it's running all of the pieces of code inside this packet, this standard node over here. And this text card is essentially a piece of code that tells your AI chatbot to output hello to the chat. So you can see that if I start a new conversation and say hi, it will just output hello and then end the conversation, because that's the only piece of code inside this standard node packet. You can actually build a whole AI chatbot with just standard nodes and all the other cards that WordPress offers you, including the Google Calendar cards for standard nodes, which would allow you to list events and stuff like that. But you would notice if you use a list events card here in a standard node, because there's no AI involved inside this node, you have to fill in all the details yourself to allow it to find the right events. So for example, you'd have to tell it how many events to retrieve, the page token, the dates that it should find events on or after, and where it should output the events that it finds, and it will in fact find them and list them and output them as a JavaScript object, which won't be in the perfect format that we saw, like the bullet point format that we saw the autonomous node output. So it is a little harder to do, but it does give you more control over the conversation when you use standard nodes. But if you're a beginner on WordPress, I would highly recommend that you stick to autonomous nodes just for now, and essentially they can help you sort out as many tasks as you want. And you just have to connect the right integrations such as Google Calendar, and then connect the right tools to the autonomous node, and it can essentially do everything that you need your AI chatbot to do. So I'll just hook this up back here and I will delete this and we will continue building. So basically here's the prompt. I'll actually copy this and paste it in our document that you can find in the video description. And all of these sections over here will be filled in with like filler words that you can just delete and put in the right tool, so that you can make sure that you get this absolutely right and perfect. when you're setting it up for yourself. So go ahead and check the video description right now to get the prompt, paste it in here, and then just edit everything that you need to edit to make sure that it fits your business. The one thing that I'll tell you to just watch over is this last sentence over here. I'm currently in Uganda, so my time zone is UTC +3, but essentially when WordPress is communicating with Google Calendar, it communicates the times in UTC format. And so you just have to make sure that you get the conversions right and just tell it to make sure to convert between each. So essentially just copy the statement and adjust it accordingly depending on your time zone. But if you are actually in UTC, then you can essentially just delete this and everything should be fine. And then you can begin to test it. So I've actually gone ahead and I've said I want to book an appointment for Friday. It said it was going to check. It listed up available times. I picked a time, and then you can see it took my name, and then it confirmed that it had booked the appointment. And if we head over into Google Calendar, like, pardon me because it's a little packed, but essentially you can see that it has booked an event for 4:30, and if I click on that, you can see Enoch Omunu discovery call - Enoch Omunu, which is in the exact format that we told it to follow in the prompt that we gave to the autonomous node in WordPress. So you can see that it actually works and it's set up correctly. And now I've gone ahead and asked it, started a new conversation and said I want to change my appointment. I've given it my name, and it actually found 2 appointments and asked me which one I want to change. And I said the one at 4:30, which is the one I had booked before. And then it essentially confirmed the change. I told it I wanted to move it backward by an hour to 5:30. It did that, and I checked my Google Calendar. I can see over here that this is the appointment. It now starts at 5:30. Enoch Omunu discovery call Enoch Omunu, and so that actually works. Now I've gone ahead and also tried canceling an appointment, but I actually kind of had to fight a little bit with it. But it actually brought up something key that you need to realize when building this. You need to use an LLM that's actually quite powerful. So I'd recommend that you use something like GPT 5.3 or 5.4. Or if you're not going to do that, you might want to go for something like Claude Opus 4.7 or Claude Opus 4.6. And the reason for this is that it kind of has to do a lot of work when it finds appointments, and then it has to take that appointment ID, and then it has to ask you if that's the correct appointment. Then it has to put that ID inside the delete event tool. Then it has to delete it. So it's essentially overworked, and so it kind of needs to be smart to be able to do this, and that's why you kind of want to use a more powerful LLM. So just make sure you do that, and then you'll also realize that its format of talking is a little weird. So you can see over here it output raw code, and it kind of texts in a weird way and outputs weird messages. But this is all stuff that you can change in the autonomous node, just by essentially telling it exactly how you want it to behave and prompting it a little more, which I won't do in this because it basically does what I want it to do, just the output is weird. Or if you want to change that as well, you can come over here into agents, enable the personality agent, and then give your AI chatbot a specific personality, tell it to output text in a certain way, to use bullet points when necessary, for example, when outputting dates, and things like that, and just essentially tell it how you want it to format its responses, just to make sure everything is perfect. But in terms of the basic functionality of getting it to book events, change events, and delete events from your calendar, it should be working perfect now. And by the way, I would actually recommend for you to go ahead and do this to make sure that it just formats everything correctly, because if it doesn't get the format right, the users who interact with it will not understand what it's outputting, the options it's giving them to make bookings on, and therefore they will probably make wrong choices, and it will just mess up the whole communication between the AI chatbot, the user, and your calendar, which is not what we want. So go ahead and either use a personality agent or just prompt your autonomous node a little bit more to make sure it gets the formatting right. But I won't bore you with doing that in this video, because I just came to show you how to book events, cancel events, and edit events with your AI chatbot. So you can see I've integrated it to WhatsApp as well, started a conversation, and yeah, things would go on essentially, and I'd be able to book an appointment from WhatsApp as well. So if you want to integrate your AI chatbot to WhatsApp so that people can actually book into your Google Calendar from there as well, just watch this video up here where I teach you how to integrate your WordPress AI chatbot to WhatsApp in just 6 minutes.